Welcome, friends. It's Gisa from Butterfly Garden, and today I have a story to read called Out of This World, the Surreal Art of Leonora Carrington, written by Michelle Markel and illustrated by Amanda Hall. Leonora's parents wanted her to be like every other well-bred English girl, but she was not. At the age of 4, Leonora started scribbling on the walls, then on paper, and soon the pictures came flooding out. She sketched the birds that peered at her from the stained glass windows of her mansion. She sketched the horses she'd seen at stables. She drew maps of make-believe planets and illustrated fables about their native creatures. How she loved fantastic tales. Her grandma told her enchanting legends from Ireland, the land of their ancestors. The stories took Leonora to worlds that shimmered beyond this one, and when the spirits flew and the gods stirred their cauldrons and the fairies shifted shapes, something flew and stirred and shifted inside of her. Though she drew more fancifully and more often than most proper girls, her mother and father took little note of it. They wanted her to become a lady, then a rich man's wife. So when Leonora turned 9, they packed her off to boarding school. But her dreaminess went with her. She could neither pay attention nor follow rules. The teacher said Leonora was unteachable and expelled her from one school, then another. Still, at Miss Penrose's academy in Italy, Leonora made an important discovery. On visits to churches and galleries, she saw paintings that opened into forests full of knights on horseback, into glittering cities where people dressed in luscious, colorful garments. The art reminded her of places she'd been before, in her favorite stories. Leonora wanted to paint her own imagined worlds. She refused to find a husband at her debutante ball and every other fancy place her parents forced her to go. There was only one thing she wanted: to become an artist. An artist. In those days, that was highly unsuitable, especially for ladies. Leonora's father was horrified, and her mother was worried. "You're going to be an old maid at 25, she warned. But her parents gave in and sent her to art school. Leonora's timing was perfect. A group of artists called Surrealists was stunning London with their mysterious creations. One of them, Max Ernest, made collages of startling sights: a lady with a bird for a head, a creature whose body sprouted leaves. When Leonora saw his pictures, it was like a match was struck inside her. This was the kind of art she had to make. Art that gave her strange feelings, wondrous as fairy tales. She dashed off to France, where the Surrealists lived. Leonora was barely 20, and most of the artists there were bossy older men. Their leader, a poet dressed in bottle green, decided on the rules of the group and ran the discussions at parties and cafes. But Leonora enjoyed writing and painting alongside the Surrealists. She learned to dive into her imagination, to summon memories and secret wishes. She painted a plush chair in her childhood home. A little version of her took a seat. Out flowed her hair like a wild mane. Up went her rocking horse to the ceiling. A hyena tiptoed toward her hand. Leonora and the other female Surrealists were thrilled to be making art from a woman's point of view. They had no interest in painting women who looked like pretty decorations, as men had done for centuries. Leonora was just beginning to unleash her artistic powers when a terrible thing happened. In 1940, Germany invaded Europe. Nazi soldiers arrested and locked up thousands of people in France, including Surrealists. Artists and writers fled the country, and so did Leonora. Many of the refugees ended up miles and miles away in Mexico, where they were welcome. It was hard to get used to a new home. It was hard to paint at first. Mexico astonished Leonora. The huge exotic plants in the markets, the curanderos on the road selling insects, lizards, and magic herbs. Leonora befriended a Spanish artist named Remedios, who lived in a broken-down apartment filled with cats, stones, and magic crystals. Remedios loved the same old Italian paintings as Leonora and felt the same mystical connection to the moon and the stars and all of nature. The two women talked and laughed for hours. They cooked up stories and weird concoctions. Remedios invented a recipe for dreaming you're the king of England. Leonora made a magic spell to cure Remedios when she was sick. Leonora felt safe. She felt strong. She popped a chocolate in her mouth and reached for her paintbrush. She painted a house filled with enchanted women. One of them branched into a tree. Another floated through the ceiling, while others brewed a bubbling green potion. In 1943, Leonora met a friend of Remedios's, a photographer named Chiqui. The two of them fell in love and later married. But nothing kept Leonora from painting, not struggling to earn money, not tending to her husband and children. She painted with a baby in one hand, a paintbrush in the other. She was like a wizard, stirring egg into her tempera paints, mixing cinnabar, vermilion, and golden umber. And her women did things they didn't do in paintings made by men. Instead of lying on a couch, they were listening to the stars. Instead of posing in gowns, they were going on magical processions. They were friends with monkeys, minotaurs, and mythical birds. An art collector paid Leonora a visit. The studio was shabby, but in her paintings, such miracles took place, in such color, shining like jewels on the throat of queens. Could you make more? He asked. Could she? Leonora imagined a giantess with golden wheat for hair, cradling a tiny egg. She painted her on a wooden panel, and it charmed the visitors at her first one-woman exhibition in New York City. In the years that followed, Leonora's fantastic sculptures perched on the streets of Mexico. Her luminous sets and costumes delighted theatergoers, and her mystical paintings became known throughout the world. She made art until her skin wrinkled and her hair turned gray. She was never rich and never proper, and she never moved back to England. For Leonora, art was a way to love the universe and understand it. In her paintings, women have special gifts. They can do things beyond anybody's wildest dreams, which is marvelous, and it's powerful, and it's true. That's the end of our story.
Okay, my little artists, what you're going to need for this project is the printout in your homework packet. If you don't have a printout, you can just draw the pictures. You do not need a printout for this. This is just giving you some ideas. You need a blank piece of paper, a pencil, scissors, colored pencils or crayons, or any colors that you have at home. And if you want a little hat or a little container to put the little pieces, your little cards into, you can have that too. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just cut along these lines. But again, you can draw these little pictures and then cut them out and put them into a little hat or a little container. Thank you, Tate in England, for providing this activity. So I'm going to put them all face down into here. This is great cutting practice. Remember, when you're cutting, you're always cutting away from you, not in towards you, and you'll always have your thumb up. All right, so upside down those go. Okay, and then you can mix them all up. Mix, 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 mix. And then you can go ahead and pick 3 pictures. I've got a heart, let's see, the sun, and let me just pick something. You can close your eyes, you can just pick, I'm gonna pick this one. All right, so a bicycle, a heart, and a sun. And then you're going to draw those objects kind of in a wacky way, because remember, Surrealism is more imaginative and not really very realistic. So, but it uses realistic objects. So I'm gonna draw my bicycle first. Bicycle seat, and you can color in with using you know, your colored pencils or your crayons later. And then I'm going to put my son driving my bicycle, which is kind of silly, right? We know that can't really happen. And then I'm gonna put a heart right here. And then color it in. And there is my Surrealist picture. Can't wait to see your artwork. Remember to send me a picture, and please like and subscribe to support our channel. Thank you.